Welcome back from June Karisa in Mombasa. We now get into a totally different conversation, and right this very moment we are going to be discussing agribusiness and food security in the country. And joining me for this particular conversation is Professor Richard Oduor, who is the chairman, Kenyatta University Biotechnology Consortium, and he is a biotechnologist. We also have on my immediate left, we have Dr. Ruth Mbugua, and she is the Dean School of Health Sciences, Ngina University College. And joining us also for this particular conversation is Honorable Ruku Geoffrey Keringa, and he is the MP Mbeere North constituency and a trustee at Water Services Trust Fund. Welcome to the conversation and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're doing all right?
Yes.
All right.
Just to correct, I'm not a trustee at Water Service Trust Fund.
Oh.
I was a trustee many years ago.
Okay.
In 2015.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
Sorry about that. All right. And if we may just get directly into this particular conversation, I want to begin with this particular research. Now, in the 2023 Global Hunger Index, Kenya ranks 90th out of 125 countries. So this shows that our level of hunger in the country is serious, if I may say so. If I may just get comments from each one of you concerning that. Where is the problem? What is happening? How is it that our level of hunger is bad? It's serious. Beginning with you, Honorable Ruku, kindly.
Thank you. Any nation to develop must, first of all, be able to feed its population. And any nation which cannot be able to feed its people, that's a banana republic. And I think we are where we are today as a nation because of policies which previous regimes, starting with Mzee Kenyatta to Moi to Kibaki, all the way to where we are today, because of the policies which have been made in the past, as far as food security is concerned. And we have to get it right in terms of coming up with proper policies, and not only policies, but also regulations and registration in Parliament, which can spur the productivity of our land in terms of getting water for irrigation, where we can't be able to get rainfall, enough rainfall to do farming, in terms of getting farm inputs such as fertilizer and other farm input which are required, and also getting it right as far as seeds are concerned. And we are talking about all manner of seeds. And these seeds must be certified seeds, which we can say the yield of these seeds is known. And for them to be certified, then it means at the background there must be institutions working on that process. Those institutions, some of them must be research institutions, and must be supported by the government. So I think where we are is because we have not been able to get it right from the previous administrations. But I think with Kenya Kwanza government, President is trying to do everything possible, and that's why there is subsidized fertilizer at the moment. And that's why from this year is coming up with dams across the nation, so that there can be provision of irrigation water, which will be geared towards ensuring there is productivity of our land. And therefore, this problem of hunger, food insecurity, malnutrition can be solved. But also looking at the climate change, which is also impacting the productivity of our land in a serious manner, and this is something which also Kenya Kwanza government is championing in a very strong manner. And you know, the President has been at the forefront of campaigning for a change globally in terms of climate change, especially when it comes to financing structure of solving this problem of climate change, because we have huge, like for instance at the moment we have El Nino which is going on, flooding. We have seen how it has destroyed not only infrastructure but also crops in farms. So it's quite a number of things which are compounding the problem of food insecurity. But I think with the proper policies, proper registration and commitment from the center of government, we can be able to solve this problem once and for all.
We can avert it. All right, according to you, Prof, where are we going wrong? You know, speaking as a biotechnologist.
I think, Vivian, we are where we are because of many things. I think we are here because we have not taken advantage of the resources that we have as a country. If you look at, and we have not also looked into how do we harness the existing technologies so that we can uplift or increase the food production. Look at, for instance, the precision agriculture, where we should be using GPS and drones and remote sensing to uplift the food production. You can easily see that we are currently as a country very heavily using drones, but it is largely for capturing photos and camera and all that, and that's what drone is known for in this country. I can tell you the same drone, all you need to give it is a very clear, nice, powerful camera. As it is flying over your farm, you are able to it's able to pick pictures, and those pictures can be reconciled at the back end to get to know which area of that land is actually drying off and requires irrigation, which area is requiring what fertilizer because of the pictures that have been picked from that point, and which area is being attacked by whatever disease because it can pick the pictures and we can see them from where we sit from back end. That is precision agriculture. The second thing that is also very important that we need to look at is take advantage of the mobile telephony. In this country, almost most people have mobile phones. But what are we using them for? Accessing content and that is created in the social media, a lot more communication, which is fine. But if you want to use that in terms of food production, then what are the contents that are being created towards agriculture? How do you feed information about forecast? You see, right now we are seeing floods, and this is not new. The meteorological department actually declared a while ago that this will happen. But once we had that, what did we do with that information? How routinely do we still pass information that is critical to farmers? Do they know when to plant? Do they know the right seed? Do they know how to prepare the soil? When to weed? And even when to do these agronomic practices that are critical for food production. That information is there. Then we also need to look at what we call AgTech platform. Yes, you want to do agriculture, but some farmers will ask you, where is the market? A farmer who is in Mbeere North, for instance, where Mheshimiwa is talking about, that farmer has no clue what to do with the say the Mbugua, which they are harvesting there. All they know is that they have planted it, how it's going to be picked from that place to Nairobi at whatever speed, and we meet them on the road as they're trying to transport the Mbeere. It's some other system. So who is connecting this farmer with the market, and who is training them to get to know at what point should they even harvest and play around with the market dynamics so that they get the more out of that? That is also worrying. Look at the bigger thing, for instance, Vivian, the youth that we have. Have we taken advantage of the youth really to start enticing them in matters agriculture and making the technologies more trendy to them? There is no way you'll get a girl who is 18 years old to tell them to go to the farm, to start using the hoe. So make it trendy for them. Let it make sense to them. And that is why we are saying we have a lot more things and that we need to put in place. But more importantly also, new technologies in terms of seed generation. And that is where I come in terms of biotechnology. What kind of the quality of the seed are we giving these farmers so that at the end of it all, they are protected against, say, drought, for instance, against pests and diseases. All those are critical. And then I also think, and Mheshimiwa talked about it, what is the government's role then? The government needs to, if you look at this country, we have a big chunk of land, and people can do agriculture, but how do you tell somebody in Samburu or in Northeastern to do agriculture without water? And that is why the discussion around the dams, so that once you have water, you are able to irrigate, and that is very important for the, the people who want to venture into it. And I can tell you, food security and food business is the only thing that is constant, and it's assured that there's always market, but we need to harness all this information in ways that can build consensus and drive agribusiness and food security.
Your take on the same, Doc?
Thank you, Vivian. I think from my end, I like first of all to say that it's quite a great concern when we see like over 4 million Kenyans are food insecure. And again, from the health perspective, looking at a quarter of the children that we have who are below 5 years are actually stunted. And the main contributor of this is food insecurity. So really, there is much that is to be done, and I would say that as the government, we've had very good strategies that have been put across, like Prof has mentioned, but it's not all about having the strategies in place, but really how far are we in implementing them? So like we have the agribusiness strategy, but looking at maybe what is put across there, coming to the ground and checking what is going on. As he's saying, there is that farmer who is in that remote area, does not even understand what is in there. And I think the main thing we have is there's lots of gaps in terms of knowledge, in terms of technology. And of course, when we have lots of gaps in knowledge in terms of something that is to be implemented, then we can say that even these strategies that we do have actually remain like things which are just in offices, just for dust to gather around. So I strongly believe that we need to come up, there should be private-public partnerships. The government needs to come out strong to look at the strategies as articulated and really come true to their word, like, for example, increasing knowledge. Like in Kenya, we should have adequate, the knowledge hubs that should be there, such that if I am a farmer and I have a mobile phone, I should be able to access lots of information. Maybe my interest is maybe sweet potatoes, for example, but where do I get this information from? All these are lacking. So we need to take advantage of the technology that is already in place, leverage on what is existing, and then together come and see what you can be able, because this is not a fight that is going to be won by one person. And I like to state that as Prof has put across, we have this group, the youths. And of course, we are talking about the youths being jobless, but how much have we done to ensure that this group, we're able to capture them, to make like agriculture look very attractive to them. And then from this also, they are assisted to be able to come up with, like how do they get to the market, sharing knowledge across. We could have mobile apps that can be able to distribute this information, platforms where we have knowledge. And then as well, of course, if you look at the strategy, mostly talking about coming out of the subsistence farming to actually innovative ways of farming, as well as commercialization. But the question is, how do we achieve this? So I do feel that we need to have intentional people coming together, lots of private-public partnership, and coming from an institution of higher learning, lots of research is needed. And from this research, this is where we also get the new technologies. So Prof is talking about biotechnology, but how many people understand much about it?
Exactly.
Yes, and also we are talking about farmers are struggling, for example, with having to have crops. Pesticides are needed. They plant whatever they are planting, but then the output is so little. Yet we have a lot that has been going on in the country in terms of research, but dissemination of this also remains a problem. So I strongly feel that if we support research, technology is the way to go. Looking at other countries and how they have made it, if we just stick to traditional methods of doing what we are doing, then ultimately we will not get different results. So if we have to get different results, we have to get innovations. Innovations, mostly we have to have a strong base of research, and then we support this evidence and be able to ensure that we implement. And of course, that sharing of information across, so that anybody in this country is able to understand exactly what is going on. So like we've had a lot of talks whereby people do not understand about, for example, genetically modified foods. Yeah. So this is a big question. So I'll say no to it, but I don't understand what it's all about. So I think these are conversations that need to be put up in every space that we have, and everybody should take advantage of it, from the political group. Of course, the government should be the key player, and as well as other private firms. And also we have the institutions of higher learning, especially should come out strong in terms of the research that is being conducted for this particular area.
All right, and on that note, we'll take a very quick break, and then we'll come back to continue with this conversation. And we are back. Welcome back to the show. Now, we've touched base on just what may be ailing food security in this particular nation. And I now want us to get into the new technologies that have been put in place or that are being used right now. And I will direct this to you, Prof, on GMOs specifically, because that is the technology that is being used right now. If you may just get us into it, what's the science behind it?
Thank you, Vivian. I must say, though, that we haven't done very well as the scientists who are actively involved in this technology in terms of disseminating the kind of capacity that we have as a country. It would interest the nation to know that for the last 18 years, this country has been involved in development of GMO crops. And it started at Kenyatta University 2005, and the lab was commissioned by the late Professor George Saitoti that time. Imagine for 18 years we have been doing research at Kenyatta University, but the public doesn't know. So it means we have been doing this, but it's kept within the ranks of academicians and probably publications that are not really accessible to the general public. What exactly do we do when we talk about biotechnology and GMO, to be more precise? We understand, and that's the truth, that the world provides everything. There is everything for every situation and circumstances. And what the technology has now, the level we have reached in terms of genetic engineering and genome editing now, we are able to ask ourselves very pertinent questions. That you look at, for instance, you look at cassava, and you find that cassava, some of them that have bigger tubers are bitter. They contain cyanide. And of course, Dr. will tell you that cyanide has a lot of serious implications, and people die, and babies have been dying, and even adults. It has even implications on their sight and many other things. Then you ask yourself, why is cassava that we are supposed to eat the one, again, supplying us with cyanide? Then you need to ask yourself, why is, in the first place, some cassava varieties producing cyanide? Then through science, we get to know that cyanide is a product that is guided by the DNA. And the whole reason why cassava is producing that is to protect itself so that it's not overly eaten, because it is survival for the fittest. That is the truth for anything that is alive. Then we say, okay, then we need to understand that there are some cassavas that don't have a lot of cyanide because we still eat them. So the question would be, if you compare this one that produces cyanide and the one that doesn't, what is the difference? Then as a biotechnologist, we go into the DNA and start figuring out. You realize that the other cassava that doesn't produce the cyanide has a certain set of sequences in the genome. The other one doesn't have. And that is what now genome editing comes and say, you are both cassava. This one produces something that we don't eat, and yet it has bigger tuber. So why do we want this one that produces cyanide? Sometimes you realize that the tubers are bigger and therefore will give us, to drive us towards food security. So how do we help the humanity? We go in there, sequence the two cassavas, get to know what is the difference between the genome for this one and the other one, and that is what you realign using the normal technology that we have as a country. We are trained in this and we understand it. So when we do that, then you hear people saying you're causing cancer, yet the same genome has been there. That's one aspect. In nutrition that Dr. talked about here, about stuntedness and lack of, for a long time people have been talking about food quantity, but I can tell you in the corridors of food production and health, we are now talking a lot more around food quality. So it's not about carbohydrates, it's about the mixture of all other nutrients that are required. So For instance, when you are taking your nice githeri in the morning, you are taking your carbohydrates from the maize or from the waru, and you are taking a bit of your proteins from the beans, and a bit of vitamins and all that from the nyanyas and the tomatoes and all that you're using, and it becomes a balanced food. Now we are saying, if we don't have now beans to give you carbohydrates, because to give you proteins, you cannot only eat carbohydrates. So we, as genetic engineers, what we know is that in your mouth, and this is something we need to tell people, anytime you're eating your ugali and beef, in your mouth you're mixing the DNA from cows and DNA from maize, and you don't grow with horns and you don't have, leaves, and yet you're eating these things with the DNA. So the moment you understand the basics of biotechnology, then it will become very easy that then why would you not get your proteins in maize, yet both of them are plants? So genetic engineers, we come and say, we want to profile beans and identify the competency that is in bean that makes it make protein and not maize. At that particular point, we have a technology, and I can tell you, Vivian, is very basic, because it happens naturally anyway through horizontal or vertical gene flow. So we can specifically move that capacity to maize. At that particular point, that maize will be called the GMO, and you will hear people saying it's so bad it causes cancer. You naturally still eat beans, you naturally still eat maize. If we mix them genetically, then where did this cancer story come from? And there is, yes.
Yeah, I would want the doctor to come in on that, but before she does, allow me to cut you short and just speak to Honorable Ruku. Honorable Ruku, it is quite evident that the public is completely out of touch on matters GMO. So what is hindering, maybe the government from creating enough public awareness to the people so that they get to understand these GMOs? Because we hear many misconceptions around it. So it's very clear that no one has really gone to the ground to speak to them, including the farmers.
Thank you, Vivian. I think this space is dominated by agrochemicals industry. And it's a big business. And anytime a government want to make a step in the right direction towards the GMO, promoting GMO, you hear civil society going to court, making a lot of noise, saying that government is now on its path of regularizing food production or things which will cause cancer to its population, and many people will go to court. At the moment, BT maize, which has gone through all the measures or all the safety measures under the Biosafety Authority of Kenya, is in court, and the ruling is going to be made probably next month or I think next month. And this variety of maize should be in our farms at the moment, so that we can be able to take care of food insecurity in this country. Last year, government trying to import maize, but there was no maize anywhere in the world. It was a big problem, and that's why the prices of unga went up. So we need to ensure we have enough production to cater for our local consumption. So Biosafety Authority is doing all what it can with very little or with very small budget to ensure we have BT maize, we have BT cotton already in our farms at the moment. And the production of cotton in this country in 1980s and early 90s, it was one of the biggest foreign exchange earner. But the production of cotton died. At the moment, the demand of cotton in the world, you can't be able to satisfy that demand. And that's why the government ensured the first budget to be aligned on the value chain process is this budget, where we're investing in production, and whatever we are producing in our farms, we take care of value chain. We know that there is this factory which you uptake what you are producing to process it, to add value, and probably consume locally and even export. So there is charge of agrochemicals industry, who have benefited in a serious manner over the years, because what does BT cotton cures or BT maize cures? It cures, this is a variety of maize or variety of cotton which is resistant to certain infection. It's resistant to certain bacteria. So it is able to grow in our agroecological zones and be more productive because there's less infections as compared to variety which has not undergone modification to make it more resistant to infection, to bacteria, and to, as he was talking about, cassava, also variety of cassava that cannot be infected by virus. Therefore, there is more yield. More yield means there is plenty to be consumed and to be processed into other product within the economy. So we have to tell Kenyans, don't listen to civil society as far as GMO or some of these genetic modification is concerned in our country.
Yeah, and
they are in business.
Yeah. The main concern of the people generally is that it causes cancer. And now that we have a Mbeere here, my question to you, very direct, does GMO cause cancer? And what is the relation between cancer and GMO? Is there any relation?
Really, Vivian, we know that in the corridors there's been lots of talk, and also looking at research that has been done, you find that approximately 51% of Kenyans will avoid GMOs because they feel that it's of public health concern. But I'm here to confirm that this is misinformation. And as Muheshimiwa is saying, Honorable Ruku, looking at the players on the ground, people have got vested interest in various things. So when we are talking about genetically modified foods, we are looking at saving of costs, like pesticides are less used, the output will be greater. And then also as a medic, we talk about sometimes even fortification. Like we could find that vitamin A deficiency is a problem. So we have a food that is produced and then there is vitamin A in it. So I'm here to confirm that the public should not be misguided based on interest from different corners. And I like to say that genetically modified food is safe. And looking at even other markets, if you go to other developed countries, you find, like, for example, corn, 90% of their corn is actually genetically modified. And we do not say that, for example, there is discrepancies in terms of the cancers which are there. Actually, you find that the lower middle income countries are actually also having lots of cancer. So I'd like to say that genetically modified food is safe for consumption. And mainly the talk that has been there is because of misinformation. And as we are here today also, we like the public to actually, it is good to get information from the right people. And also, of course, in the political circles, we have seen lots of information thrown in. And sometimes when we have very prominent people coming out strong and building a conversation, then you find that the rest of Kenyans are able to believe that. So we like to call upon all Kenyans to join hands so that we support technology, because as we are right now, climatic crisis is there, looking at the increase in the population that we have, and of course the production is minimizing. So what is the way forward? We have to embrace technology. And the only way to discuss a matter is actually to have facts about it. So research has been done. We have the National Biosafety Authority. So we are not talking from a point of just talking. So like we'll have the tests which have been done to ensure that really the risks are not there for that food, because it cannot be distributed when it is actually found to have anything that is risky for the population. So genetically modified food is safe, and actually it might be the magic bullet to the food insecurity that we are talking about. Looking at cancer, of course, cancer also is surrounded by lots of myths and misconceptions. And I like to state that it doesn't matter whether you are eating the traditional food that we have or the genetically modified foods. It depends with the kind of food that you select. For example, we talk about going for the whole grains, avoiding lots of fats in your diet, engaging in exercise, of course, avoiding too much sugar, because of course this comes with increase in weight and obesity, and we know of course these are risk factors for cancer. And looking at cancer itself, nobody can stand and say that cancer is caused by this and this. It remains a mystery for all of us. But of course there are those things that you talk about, the risk factors. So some of the risk factors, the main one is actually healthy eating. So I like to inform the public that for you to prevent yourself from cancer, it is not the genetically modified foods that cause the cancer, but it is actually your choice in terms of the food that you take in. So when you take meat, you avoid the very fatty meat, you take lean meat. Avoid processed foods, because processed foods have got lots of chemicals, and these ones are likely to cause the cancer. If you are able to understand your ideal weight as a person, so you check your intake versus your output, meaning that you engage in regular exercise, as well as ensuring that you go for your screening. So this is where what we have to take up as the public to prevent ourselves from cancer. But we also have to understand that this quarter, or rather 25% of children that we are talking about who are below 5 years, who have stunted growth, we know the implications of that. It's got effects on their psychological development, effects on their brain development. So we really have to come out from the shell of depending on statements that come from individuals, but really looking at science and asking ourselves, what is the science saying? So Prof has explained very well what is this that we are talking about when we are describing a food that is genetically modified. So the connection of this with cancer, these are just part of the misinformations that we do have. And also looking at the recently released report about what the public perceives of the GMOs, you find that many people will say that really, I say I cannot consume them, but asked why, they really don't have the answers. So I think it's high time as a country we change the conversation, bring it into different spaces, and let the public know that right now with what is going on, we have got no choice but to embrace technology. And this technology comes when it's backed up with facts, and also we have regulatory bodies that will ensure that nothing that is harmful will be able to be circulated into the market. And therefore, talking about GMO and cancer, I will say that that is really part of the misinformation. Yeah, thank you.
All right, now because of time, Prof, maybe why are there still concerns as we wrap up? Because I'm being told we only have around 5 minutes to wrap it up. Why are there still concerns on matters GMO?
We still have a lot of concerns because we took time to start explaining this. And I can tell you in the last 5 years, there has been a lot of, dissemination from some of us, and that is why even we started the Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium that I chair, and of course also other players, ISA and many others that are in the space of dissemination. But what is more important is a lot more communications such as this. And I'm very happy today that I am here. To my left there is Mheshimiwa, and to my right there is a medic. And then now the scientists that do this. If we can continue having such kind of communication, because what the Mheshimiwas actually say, they are the people. In the recent net mapping that was done, we realized that politicians are actually the people who have the populace, and what they say matters a lot. And therefore, if we can rally them and talk to them and build their capacity so that they are able to speak with some facts around this. Because what is interesting with politicians is that when whatever they say is also taken as stark truth by the electorate, and sometimes it's not true, because you'll hear some of them saying it will grow, let you grow certain parts of your body. Of course, we are in public media, I wouldn't want to say some of those words. And this is worrying, and they say, and they get away with it. Then at that particular point, doctors, for instance, are the people who are actually right now prescribing GMO insulin, the interferons and gene therapy platform that are GMO. But there's nobody who coming again talking about it. So when we get medics actually coming to talk about it and trying to demystify this, we will be really at a good place. So the concerns are just fears that people developed over the years, and we need to unpack that. Yes. And they also need to come physically and ask us, because we are scientists, we are being paid from taxpayers' money, and we therefore need to be a little accountable to what is it that we are doing that benefits them. So let them come to Kenyatta University, let them go to Calro, let them go to ILRI. Those are labs that are doing genetic engineering for this country. So for me, I would say the concerns are unfounded, and anytime you feel you have genuine concern, please, our numbers are available. Come to Kenyatta University, we will show you the lab, we will show you the GM products, and you will realize that all this actually in other languages are just hot air and wild goose chase, if I may plagiarize such kind of words. Thank you so much.
Honorable Ruku, your parting shot on this matter.
Kenya Kwanza government is seriously supporting the new paradigm shift when it comes to food security, and all options on the table. One of the options is promoting GMO. There are challenges of people going to court and ejecting some of the steps which have been made in the right direction. This is a challenge which we have to deal with, and the president has decided that he has to call out judiciary and say it can't continue holding good or positive steps which the government is making. One of the positive steps which the government is making through Biosafety Authority is to promote implementation or uptake of genetically modified varieties of crops, whether it is cotton, whether it is maize, whether it's cassava, whether it is Irish potatoes, whether it's sweet potatoes, for the purposes of food security for our country. That is clear from where I sit as far as the Kenya Kwanza administration is concerned.
All right, thank you so much for your input on this matter, Dr. Ruth, Professor Richard Oduor, and Honorable Ruku. And this is where we call it a wrap right here on Good Morning Kenya. On behalf of the entire team, we want to wish you a lovely day. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.